love a big fantasy. Give me sprawling worlds, complex magic systems, all the maps in the front of the books. I will happily live there for weeks or months, as in the case of all the Cosmere reading that I've been doing.
Time well spent.
But here's the thing, sometimes fantasy does lean a little bit too hard on the tropes. The chosen one, the big bad villain, the magical artifact that's going to solve every problem.
Precious.
And the characters end up feeling like they are just there to check the boxes and move the story along. But for me, this is why reading through the Cosmere has been so different. Sanderson's books still give you all the magic, all the elements of the fantasy that you're looking for, but the heart of his stories, what makes him a fantastic writer, is not the tropes. It's the people. His characters don't exist to serve the plot. I feel like the plot of Sanderson's books is really there to serve the growth of the characters. So this is why today I want to talk about why Sanderson is an author you should read, even if you usually stick to lighter genres.
You're just telling me this now?
Because Sanderson's ability to put humans at the center of his story makes him incredibly universally accessible. So I'm a big romance and fantasy reader, and I think for a lot of people, it kind of feels like those two genres are really on the opposite ends of the bookshelf. But this is why I think that they're actually closer. Romance and really well-written fantasy really focus on the characters. For romance, the formula creates space for us to really sink into someone's thoughts and their emotions, their fears, their hopes, their decisions. And fantasy, when it's done well, also relies on this. Fantasy's more formulaic nature can allow the character growth to really shine. And this is what Sanderson does best. He avoids the temptation to flatten out his works by leaning solely on tropes. He gives us fantasy with all the scale that we know and love, but with characters that feel human and real. So let's talk some specific. Take Mistborn. So at first glance, Mistborn has every single fantasy trope that you could want. It has a dark lord ruling a sad land, a scrappy band of rebels, and a chosen figure who is maybe the key to saving the world. But what makes Mistborn unforgettable is not the fantasy tropes. It is Vin. Vin is scarred by her betrayals, struggling to believe that she deserves connection, love, and belonging at all. Vin's arc, learning to trust and to open herself up to real, meaningful connection, is what makes this story beautiful. It's what really pushes the book along. This is why Mistborn resonates with so many people, because the tropes do give the book structure, but Vin is what makes the story matter. And one of my favorites, Warbreaker. On the surface, Warbreaker feels like a whole mishmash of tropes. A political marriage, gods living among humans, two sisters caught in their kingdom's conflict. We've seen all the pieces before. We know them and they draw us into the story. But Sanderson transforms these and refuses to leave them as just the tropes. Vavina and Ciri don't act like archetypes. They act like people. Ciri is underestimated time and time again. Vavina is incredibly overconfident and has to confront who she really is and what she wants out of life. And through all of it, this story is ultimately about family, sacrifice, love. The fantasy trappings in this book are really fun, but the characters are what drive this story. They are what make this story unforgettable. So don't get me wrong, Sanderson definitely uses tropes, but he never lets them define his stories. Instead, he fills those familiar shapes with characters who are deeply human, who have to make choices that really matter, and who grow in ways that stick with you. All right, so let's talk about one of the big questions that people have. And that's about where do we even start with Sanderson? Because his catalog is huge, and honestly, it can be very intimidating. Now listen, as much as I love the Stormlight Archive, you don't have to start with these 1,000-page giants. You can, but if you want something a little more approachable, these are the ones that I would recommend. Warbreaker is great if you want romance, some family drama and humor, and a beautiful story about finding out how you really matter. Or you can start with Mistborn if you are ready for an epic but still very accessible fantasy experience. Now, I personally have not yet read Trust, but I've heard that it's incredibly whimsical, adventurous, and heartfelt, and people also recommend that as a great starting point. All of these show off Sanderson's really unique strength of letting his characters shine in the midst of tropes. Now, there's something else that I want to talk about, and that is that Sanderson really rewards casual reading. Sanderson is famous for his Cosmere, his big interconnected series full of secrets and Easter eggs and characters that you find connected all along the way. but you don't have to understand everything to enjoy his books. I have read pretty much only Brandon Sanderson this year, and I will be honest, I don't catch every detail. And this is okay, because for Sanderson, as much as he loves this big, dramatic world building full of complex magic system and well-defined science, it's his characters that carry the story. His incredible characters and their journeys, their growth towards love and loyalty and self-understanding resonate whether you understand every single point of the battles or the magic systems. And this is not true for every fantasy. Some series demand that you really track every single faction, every single prophecy, every single element of the magic system, or you're completely lost. With Sanderson, the lore definitely enriches the story, and I think it's very fun. But for him, the characters are what is the story. And this really is why his books are approachable, even if you are not usually a fantasy reader. The themes that he explores are universal. Sanderson talks about love, so he talks about romantic love, but also the love of family, the love of belonging to the people that you have found as your family. He talks about trust, the difficulty of opening yourself up, and the beauty when you're seen for who you really are. He talks about hope and despair, what it means and how it feels to keep going when you might believe that everything is stacked against you. These are themes that matter in every genre, and they are done especially well in Sanderson's fantasy. This is really what makes him so special. His books remind us that magic and battle might set the stage, but what you carry away are the people, their choices, their growth, their humanity. So this is really why I just end up recommending Sanderson to everybody all the time. Because I do love a big epic fantasy, and I love the intimacy that you find in romance. It's just that I haven't found a lot of authors that can give me both. Sanderson doesn't just write to fill the tropes, he writes through them. They are tools that he uses to push his characters forward. His stories really prove that you do not have to choose between scale and intimacy. You can have both. You can have sprawling worlds and deeply personal character arcs. This combination is rare, and it's what makes him stand apart in a genre that is already full of incredible writers. So if you have had Sanderson on your reading list, but you've been putting him off because he feels intimidating, or because maybe you thought it was all plot and magic, full of world building that would feel like a homework assignment, I think you should give him a try. Start with Warbreaker, or start with the classic, start with Mistborn. Wherever you start, I really think you're going to see what I mean. You're going to meet the characters that feel real in worlds that feel impossibly big and beautiful. And you will realize that at the center of all these tropes, all the magic, all the battles, Sanderson never loses sight of his characters. This is why that I think anybody who loves romance or a more character-driven kind of story is going to love Cosmere. So tell me in the comments, if you're already a big Sanderson reader, what is the book that you would recommend people start with? And if you haven't read him yet, what book are you most excited to begin? Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And if you're ready to fall in love with characters that you will never forget and worlds that feel bigger than you can imagine, Sanderson is waiting for you.